All right, Cindy and I are back here on the Wall Street Shuffle, and we're going to have a little fun in this segment because we've got a gentleman on, Walter Block, and Walter is an author of a book called Privatization of Roads and Highways and Defending the Undefendable. And first of all, Walter, great to have you on the show, my friend.
You're very kind to have me. Thank you.
Well, and I'm conflicted here because I must say that I'm an Austrian economist. I'm such a huge fan of the von Mises Institute. I know you're associated with them, and I have a feeling you and Cindy are going to agree, and you and I are going to disagree. So let's talk about why you think privatization of roads and highways is a good thing.
Well, some 40,000 people a year die on the highways, and that's a big number of people to die. If you put that in context, in 9/11, only 3,000 people died. In Katrina, only 1,500 people died. In Vietnam, only 50,000 U.S. servicemen died, but that was over many, many years of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And here you have 40,000 people dying like flies on U.S. highways, and instead we're talking about, I don't know what, health care or something like that.
So those damn highways just reach right up and yank people out of a car and beat them to death? I mean,
yes,
it's the road's fault?
Absolutely. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful.
Well, how is privatizing that going to change it?
Well, you see, the usual defense of the present status of the present system is they say, well, the reason for these deaths has got nothing to do with private or public. It's got to do with things like drunken driving, speeding, vehicle malfunction, and a whole litany of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my analysis in this book is that those are only the superficial proximate causes. The ultimate cause is the management, and the manager is the government. Look, suppose a restaurant was going broke, and our analysis was lousy food, poor location, poor service, yak, yak, yak. We would never in a million years accept that as the definitive explanation for why the restaurant is going broke. We would say, no, it's because the management didn't hire a better chef, didn't locate in a better place, whatever.
Okay, now when I look at your website, and I have not heard this description before, it looks like your own description of yourself, which is a anarcho-libertarian philosopher. Now, I find that interesting because I'm a libertarian at heart myself, but a libertarian, it would seem to me, would not be in favor of privatization of roads for this one reason. We already own the damn roads. We've built and paid for those roads. And I know these folks, even in Texas and around the country, the communities and the states that are selling off these roads, what they're doing is they're selling off these roads to private entities. Foreign private entities. They're taking that money and they're using that money for current consumption and current expenses. They're not investing it. Yet we're going to be paying for these roads for the rest of our lives. What I don't understand is why we're selling off an asset that we've already paid for just to pay our current bills, and it's going to become a huge mess down the road. We've paid for these assets. This is why it seems inconsistent to me, Walter.
Well, I would say we don't own these roads. It's rather the government owns these roads.
We are the government. Oh, Mr. Libertarian, where's my libertarian friend here? We are the government.
We are the government?
We are the... Oh, well, yeah, we can put our hands around and do a little We Are the Government song here.
I'm Obama? I'm different than Obama. Oh. Obama is taxing people. I'm not taxing anyone. Oh,
you're killing me, man. You're just killing me. And I brag about libertarians and Austrian economists. Come on, man. We are the government. There is no such thing. I mean, the people control everything. There are no corporations. There are nothing. We end up paying the taxes. We end up carrying the burden. Anytime somebody needs money, it comes from us as taxpayers. We are the government. When the government is $12 trillion in debt, we as 300 million individuals are 12 trillion in debt.
Well, look, I don't really want to argue whether we are the government or not. We'll have to agree to disagree on that. I'd rather get back to the road situation.
Go right back.
I'm not advocating that they sell it to anyone. I'm advocating that they give it to the people who paid the taxes. For instance, Elm Street in, Keokuk, Iowa.
Okay.
There are 300 people that live on Elm Street, say. Well, I think that Elm Street should be converted into the Elm Street Corporation, and the 300 people who abut Elm Street should get one share each, and now you have the Elm Street Corporation. And the reason for this is because then Elm Street will be competing with, Peachtree Street to see who can run the roads better. I mean, the reason that we have pretty good shoes and pretty good wristwatches and pretty good T-shirts is because of competition. Whereas right now, if somebody dies on Highway 55, nobody who's in a position to to alter the situation there loses money.
Let me take a quick shot at this, though. If we go through that philosophy, then I'm just going to take a wild-ass guess that folks that live on Martin Luther King Boulevard are going to be pretty ticked off at people that live on Highland Park Boulevard. If you've got to maintain your own street.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't see why they'd be ticked off. I mean, they would now own a road, and they could charge money, or they could use it as a lost leader to promote commerce on the road, or they could do whatever they want. But, see, the libertarian ethos is that competition brings a better product.
That sounds like
if you do a good job, you can expand your base of operation, you make profits. If you do a bad job, you lose, you go bankrupt. But, you see, we don't have that with highways right now. Right now, the highways are run by the people who run the post office.
I will agree that the highways are run poorly. I won't agree that the highways cause deaths right now. I mean, if a highway is nothing more than a mode, the highways aren't causing the death. I'm sure there's...
I agree with you. It's not the highways that are causing death. They're inanimate objects. They're just made of cement. Rather, my claim is that the government entities who run the post office and run the highways, they're the ones who are responsible for this horrendous death knell.
Well, I so want to agree with you. Let me come back and ask you a question about how, your label again. Is it an anarcho-libertarian philosopher? I'm assuming it's based on anarchist, libertarian. Tell me exactly what that means, and maybe I'll understand where you're coming from better.
Well, libertarian means the non-aggression principle and property rights based on homesteading.
How'd you get? I got the libertarian part. How'd you get the anarcho?
Well, the anarcho part is because government is a criminal gang. There are a bunch of people in Washington, D.C. and in the state capitals and the cities who collect money in a very different way than you and I collect money. The way you and I collect money is with a voluntary agreement. We sell a product or we rent ourselves out, labor services, and it's mutual agreement. Whereas the way the government gets money is through taxes, which is at the point of a gun.
Now, see, now I knew we're back in agreement. Now we're right back in complete agreement, Walter. God bless you, man. I knew we'd get back here.
Magnificent.
Tell us about voluntary slave contracts.
Well, it's a little bit off of private roads, but since we've settled that one, we can voluntary slave.
Sometimes we all, as employees of current corporate circumstances, we feel like voluntary slaves at some point.
Don't look at me and say that.
I'm not. You know what I'm talking about.
Now, you have to sharply distinguish between coercive slavery of the sort that we had in the before 1861 or before 1865, however you count, and I'm certainly not favoring anything like that. But suppose my child is in great difficulties and he needs an operation that will cost $5 million. And I don't have $5 million. But happily for me, you've long wanted me to be your slave. And you're a very rich man. And I say, okay, look, I'll be your slave. I'll pick cotton for you or do whatever I want. And if you don't like how I do the job, you can whip me. But give me the $5 million. I'll give it to my son's doctors. And then my son will be alive, and I value his life more than my freedom. And you value my servitude more than the $5 million you're giving me. So we both benefit in the ex ante sense, just as in every trade. And right now, the goddamn government prohibits that sort of a thing. So my kid's going to die, and you're not going to have me as your slave. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah.
Wow. And you had me, and you kind of lost me again, and you had me again, and the voluntary slave contracts is just it's a little dicey, even for me as a libertarian at heart.
Well, we'll get there. We reconciled before.
I will say this. I like your style, my friend. I like somebody who's in the game.
He thinks outside the box. We'll give him that. I was thinking more along the lines of how we're, underemployed. There aren't any jobs, and you got to work for whatever they tell you, no matter what, because there's no place else to go. That feels like voluntary slavery to me.
That's exactly right.
No. Voluntary slavery is like a specific performance contract where, see, I hire you to sing at my wedding.
Yeah.
At the last minute, you punk out and say, sorry, Charlie, I'm not coming. And the question is, do I have a right to frog march you right up there to the microphone with a bayonet behind you and say, sing, or I plug you, or whatever?
Well, see, now I like you again. You just used all the right words in my language. I love that.
We're soulmates here. That's why I'm willing to be your slave.
Oh, God, okay. I concede, Walter. All right, brother, let me do this. Let's let everybody know how they can reach you, my friend. I'm looking at walterblock.com. Is that where you want people to find you?
Well, that's certainly one way to get me, yes. I'm a professor of economics at Loyola University, New Orleans. And,
yes.
You can reach me at wblock at loyno.edu, Loyno. That's my email address. But the web that you mentioned is a very good way to get me too.
And you also are a senior fellow with the Ludwig von Mises Institute, and I have, like I said before, I'm an Austrian economist myself. I have great love and respect for that. Even a little out of the box thinkers, because a little out of the box thinking right now is a good thing.
Oh, I think we need to get back to free enterprise and libertarianism and the Ron Paul revolution and things like that.
If Ron would just say we need a military, I'd be on board. The fact that he says get rid of the FBI, the CIA, and the military, those things creep me out. Anything other than that...
He never says get rid of the military.
He comes on our show all the time. He's a friend of mine.
No. What he says is don't have 800... military bases in 130
You're right.
countries, bring them back home. He doesn't say we shouldn't have a military.
All right, hold on. I'll agree to taking a little out of context, but he does say get rid of the NSA, the CIA, FBI. He does say get rid of that.
Yeah, that's true, but we're talking about the military now. He's in favor of the military. It would be sort of like a very powerful Coast Guard. Anyone comes around here and trying to mess with us, we kick their butt. But we don't go sticking sticks in hornets' nests all around the world. I mean, when Iraq and Iran get it on, what the hell business is it of ours, or North and South Korea? Why do we have troops in Germany or Japan? Or
All right. I'll give you that. In fact, I'll make a quick comment here. We're trying to figure out the clock, but I'll make a very quick comment. The reason countries around the world can even contemplate having nationalized health care is they don't pay a damn dime for their own national defense. Canada couldn't mount a defense if they wanted to. England couldn't. Well, England couldn't try. France can't. I can go around the world. Everybody's saying we've got all this money left over. Then, folks, why don't you contribute a little bit to our $600 billion defense budget? If you want to do that, then you can talk to me about national health care.
Well, I think we should not have socialized medicine, but it's a separate issue. We should do both. We should bring the troops home, and also we should have free enterprise medicine. I mean, if we had a free market in doctors, instead of doctors earning, I don't know, $500,000 a year, we'd have twice or three times as many doctors, and they'd be earning, I don't know, 50, 70, 100,000 a year or something much less, in accord with, say, what PhD biologists are earning. And the whole problem would go away, or most of the problem would go away with that one fell swoop if we just didn't have restricted entry on the number of doctors. We have so few doctors compared to the need for them. You can't start a medical school, even if you're duly qualified, without getting the AMA permission, and they're not going to give us permission to get more medical schools or to get more freshman doctors into the first year of medical school because they don't want to ruin, their profits.
Well, I'll say this, and I mean this with all sincerity. Loyola is lucky to have you because any economist that will think out of the box and not go down the liberal as opposed to the libertarian bend and is willing to at least say, let's think about these topics, I think that's terrific. Let me ask you two very quick questions because we have less than a minute left.
Sure.
The economy in general. Inflation, do we have massive inflation coming or do we not?
Oh, I think we have massive inflation, and again, I agree with Ron Paul. We got to get rid of the Fed. The Fed caused the debacle, and the way to go is to not create more business cycles. Get rid of the Fed and have a gold standard and 100% reserve banking instead of fractional reserve banking. Get rid of the FDIC. The government should have nothing to do more with money than it has to do with toothpicks.
And the other question, which is almost self-answering since you just said we're going to have massive inflation, we have begun to monetize the debt. Did you see today that the Federal Reserve announced that coming in the next month or two they're going to stop buying treasuries? Now, if that's the case, that means that Obama and his team have got to balance the budget instantly, or somebody's got to cover our deficit. I don't see people standing up to cover our deficit, and I don't see us balancing the budget. So I see a huge conflict coming up in the next 90 days.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're quite right. We're not going to raise taxes the amount that we need to balance the budget. We're not going to, God forbid, lower government spending. We certainly can't do that as liberal Democrats. The only way is to create more money to paper over the problem. 1923 Germany, here we come, or Zimbabwe.
I got it, brother, man. Walter, you are a breath of fresh air to talk to. You got me agreeing with you, you got me disagreeing with you, but you got me thinking, and that's what I really love. We have Walter Block on the line with us, Austrian economist and libertarian theorist, walterblock.com. Walter, we'd love to have you back anytime.
Thanks for having me, and I look forward to the next time.